Hello and welcome to the Love, Peace, Truth, Karma podcast. I'm your host, Leanne Brown, and today I've got an incredible lady to tell her story of her journey of a near-death experience, as well as how she's overcome so many things in her life, grief, and just... She is just one amazing woman. She's gone on to be the author of the Natural Wellness Journal, which is just like a Bible of things that people should know. So I'm just so excited to interview her. I hope you enjoy it.
If you're in China, you just know it's corrupt. They want it to be like that here.
People are pretending to be 12-year-old kids, mate, and they're not.
Yeah.
They're 40-year-old men.
Now we're getting bombarded with all these death numbers, but there's no context there.
He'd got one child pregnant, he'd raped many others, and we had evidence to prove that.
Do you think evil still exists today as it did back then? And the answer should very simply be yes.
Philly, is it Philly J? Do you like to be called Philly J? Or?
It's Philly, but my mum called me Philly, so that's why I've taken that name. But I just put the J in actually because it's my middle name. And when I started an Instagram account, there were no other Philly J Lays, whereas there were thousands of Philly Lays. So I just kind of thought I'll put my middle name in as well. So I'm Philly J Lay.
It's definitely a
Call me
name
Philly.
that should be in lights.
Thank you.
And you're no stranger to the theatre anyway, as you were telling me earlier. You used to be an actor.
I did used to be an actor, but I trained as a classical dancer and I went to ballet school when I was 11 years old,
How was that?
which is a discipline.
Yeah, I bet. My daughter's a dancer, actually.
Is
I was
she?
saying earlier about what totally different type of dancing, like street and commercial and everything. And
Lovely,
not
love
the
it.
same. Is it the same now, like the eating
No,
and
they're
the
they're very different modalities.
Yeah.
My favourite classes of the week at ballet school was Monday morning, Dolores Palmoro in the theatre doing jazz. And I just remember their kind of shaking and getting that vibe and that beat together to Michael Jackson, which was just,
Amazing.
having gone from just doing 6 hours classical ballet a day to going, oh my God, the earth's moving. It was just, it was amazing. And I just kind of thought the energy of street dancing, I love. It's brilliant. Whereas ballet is very, very focused and
Yes.
centred. And,
Like you said, disciplined with the food. I read in the book about how you struggled with that, did you, as a child?
yeah, I was put on my first controlled diet when I was 10 years old. I'm just going to tap on that.
Oh, yeah.
So this is tapping. This is my
Yeah.
mad shit tapping, EFT.
yeah.
So when anything triggers me, I just have to tap and
Yeah.
just let it go.
We're going to come to that a bit more deeply in a minute. I love the tapping.
So, I was put on my first controlled diet at 10 to audition for ballet schools.
By your parents then?
Yeah.
So was your mum a dancer?
No, but so there's a brilliant TED talk with Ken Robinson where he talks about ADHD.
I've heard it.
And Gillian Lynn.
It's amazing.
And I was lucky enough to work with Gillian Lynn back in the 1980s, which was
wow.
just like, wow. But I couldn't keep still. And I'm of an age where ADHD hadn't been diagnosed then.
Yeah.
But I couldn't keep still at all. So my mum used to take me to ballet every night and drop me there for the whole day on Saturday. And Sunday, I was so hyper, she was like, okay, fuck it, I'm just going to take you for a private lesson just to kind of calm you down. And then when I was 10, my ballet teacher said, I think she needs to go away and do ballet. But I wasn't big, but she said, as a classical dancer, you've got to be thin.
Yeah.
And I was, auditioning for the top schools, including the Royals. So I had to diet. And, the one thing with classical ballet is you are never enough. Whatever you do, you are never enough. And the school I went to, which was Elmhurst Ballet School, which I loved, and I have really happy memories, and I'm so grateful that I went there. But Mum chose it because when we left, she said, that's the school. Everyone's so happy there, Philly. They're all grand-jeting and pirouetting. And I got there and that isn't happiness, it's competitiveness.
Yeah.
It was like, whoa, here we go.
Yeah.
But I loved it. But I snapped my Achilles tendon when I just got into Ballet Rambert to train as a choreographer. And so I then went to drama school and I was an actor for 15 years, where again, you are never enough. So I put myself through a pretty grueling childhood and teens, really. But
Wow.
that's fine because I've now learned how to deal with it. So,
Yeah.
and, you know, everything you go through makes you stronger.
100%.
So I'm just so grateful that I had those early years that I had.
Yeah. Reading your book, it seems you're no stranger to grief and the people that you've lost around you. I just reading it, I just couldn't believe, like, it's just like one person after another that you
It's
loved,
actually a lot
like-
more than that, but I didn't
wow.
want to put any more in the book because I felt it was overwhelming. I'm just going to tap on that. And it was overwhelming. So the first person I write about was, well, you know, there were grandparents and things, and that, you know, kind of, although I was quite young to lose my grandmothers, but the strongest memory I have of losing Granny was the fact that I wasn't allowed to go to the funeral because I was 6. And so I was sent to school, and then I got home from school and they were all still at the wake, and I just sat on the doorstep on my own in tears. And nobody came home and just thought, Phil, it's on the doorstep. It's just like, sit there and grieve your grandmother on your own.
Wow, that's a trauma.
Trauma,
Yeah,
massive
yeah.
trauma. But I didn't realise it was trauma at the time. You know, it was only when I started this.
6 years old, then you wouldn't.
Yeah. But you don't understand trauma at 6 years old. They are literally all the experiences that happen that form you, and form your limiting beliefs and everything. But then my dad was a shock when he died. And I don't know why it was a shock, because he'd had Parkinson's disease since World War II, which I found a letter 3 years ago from him, actually, to my mum, calling off their engagement because he couldn't stop shaking and these blinding headaches. And he wrote in the letter that they'd started the day after he had his inoculation for the plague in India.
Wow.
And when he came back, it was diagnosed as Parkinson's, and he said, no, I don't think it is. And they went, no, it's definitely Parkinson's. And apparently it was a really big thing that so many of those young men came back from that war,
Really?
the pilots, and they said it was to do with the flight and the vibrations of the plane, that loads of them got Parkinson's. You know, this thing was diagnosed.
Yeah.
But Dad would have thought otherwise. So, so
Like
he
the
had been
Spanish
very
flu,
ill.
similar
All
story
my
there, isn't-
sorry,
the Spanish flu, similar stories there, isn't there?
there
With
are.
the,
Yes.
you're saying the inoculations and the
Yeah,
knock-on
and
effects.
also the reason that so many people died in the Spanish flu was we'd just come out of a world war and they were all malnutritioned. You know, they were weak.
Yeah.
And when your immune strong is weak, you are susceptible to anything going around.
Exactly.
You know,
As
so
you well know.
as I well know.
Yeah.
So, so I don't know why Dad was a shock, because I kind of thought every day of my life, again, trauma, that he could die that day. And he didn't. I was 26 when he died, but he had a heart attack.
And how old was he then?
69.
Okay. Still young though. My mum's 69 now, and I think
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I considered it young, but he had wanted to die every day of my life. And I remember when our dog was put down and the vet came to the house and Dad wanted some time with Lassie on his own. And we were listening at the door because it's obviously another trauma. Although it shouldn't be, because death is something we all have to get used to. But,
Yeah.
you know, that's
it's
we're taught it's a trauma.
yes. Yeah.
That's the thing. And we listened at the door and I just heard Dad say, you know, oh my God, I wish they would put me down. They would not let you live in the condition they've let me live in. And it's why I've always supported euthanasia,
Oh, right. Okay.
which is a bit of a controversial subject. But,
Yeah.
you know, you have to look at the quality of life
Yeah.
as well as the quantity. And I think that's one thing that 2020 and 2021 have really taught me,
Mm-hmm.
that you have to look at the quality of life.
As long as you're you know, your sound of mind to be able to make that decision. I get what you're saying, because my mum always says, you know, if I ever get to the stage where I'm unable to do anything and like I've got no quality of life, but then obviously would they be able to, it'd be sound of mind to make that decision. But, you know.
Sorry, I think that's one of the travesties of Parkinson's, is that your mind is completely sound, but your body can do nothing.
Okay.
And I'll come on to that even further in a minute. Whereas, you know, with Alzheimer's, at least you don't know you're going through this shit. I don't mean to make light of, my mum had Alzheimer's, so I don't mean to make light of it at all. But thank God she didn't know everything that was going on. So she just kept smiling, and, you know, that was fine. But then the following year, my brother died. He was 33 years old, and he had a lot of cancers. So my dad was a grower. He started Pick Your Own Strawberries in the UK.
Oh, wow.
He had enough money after the war to plant up the strawberries, but he didn't have money to harvest, so he just put an advert in the paper. And my brother took over. And
I love picking your own strawberries.
I know, I love picking any food. So getting your hands in soil is singularly. Monty Don actually says that gardening can do more for mental health than any drug ever can, and it's true. But my brother decided to supply a store, which I won't name, that had decided to go big time into the food industry.
Okay.
And this was in the 70s. And they took what was then a Class A lettuce from, and I'm showing my age here, from 4 ounces to 12 ounces. Well, if you're going to grow a lettuce from 4 ounces to 12 ounces for it to be, you know, the best quality, that takes a shitload of chemicals. You can't do that naturally.
Yes.
And so my brother put a consortium of young growers together, and they were all working together, and they were spraying like nothing on earth. And somebody came out, I think from the National Farmers Union, and taught them how to do it, gave them masks. And I used to watch David walking up and down the fields in the summer, spraying all the crops with a mask on, no T-shirt.
Wow.
And it's like, the skin is the largest organ
Yeah.
in Chinese medicine, you know, and you shouldn't put anything on your skin that you wouldn't put in your body.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's that simple. And so he was just spraying in the wind, covered away in these terrible chemicals, and he was dead within 3 years,
Wow.
as were the other young grower in our village as well.
And did he just not put the two together? Did he not think on...
Well,
I'm wearing a
people
mask,
still-
I'm protected, because we know
People-
masks protect you.
Because we
not.
know masks protect you. It's so ironic that all of these things that have happened in my life have just all pointed back to this year. Well, it's not ironic, because the universe puts everything in place. But as I talk about it, because it's just like, nobody knows. You know, I still have the argument with my daughters that they shouldn't put anything on their skin. And they're going, oh, it'll be fine. You know, I'm young. And I'm going, really?
Yeah,
But-
I'm still guilty of that. I was just thinking, like, the cream I've used this morning, and like I am making the transition slowly with regards to the natural, you know, the shower gels and the soaps and things like
Good.
that. The stuff that I'm
glad
using.
to hear it, Leanne.
Yeah, but even like makeup and things, isn't there? Like,
Well, I use something called Bare Minerals makeup.
yeah, I've heard of the Bare Minerals,
which
not
is,
used it.
I think, out of all the research I've done, the best of the bunch.
Yeah.
The average woman puts 126 chemicals on before they even leave the house in the
Yeah, I heard
morning.
you say this.
Because don't
Crazy.
forget, there are over 80,000 chemicals that are licensed for use that have been tested. I use that term quite loosely, but none of them have been tested in conjunction with each other.
Yes.
And there's a chemical reaction. That's why they're
course.
called chemicals.
Of course.
And then that 126 chemicals that you're putting on before you leave the house doesn't include the chemicals that you live with. So we're sitting on a sofa and we've got carpet and fabrics all covered in fire retardants. A lot of people cook in non-stick pans. Well, we know from the movie Dark Waters that Teflon forever polluted the waterways with the chemicals in Teflon. That is also in clothes, to stop clothes from being non-crease. So you've got it next to you. You could go on forever.
Literally wrap yourself in a bubble and just not go anywhere if you really
And
did
you
it.
can't.
No.
And that is the purpose of why I wrote the book, because
Yeah.
you can't live like that,
Yeah.
and you have to live on an 80-20 rule.
but there's lots of things we can do.
There's lots of stuff you can do. You can't take out the fire retardants. It's illegal.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the grief.
Yeah.
So Dad David, and then my sister Tricia got motor neurons disease.
It's crazy how you've had to deal with so many different illnesses that have all, I don't know, like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, motor neuron disease, they're all different diseases.
Granny was cancer, and Dave was as well. So no, I've dealt with a lot. And it's why I went on the journey that I went on, because I just kind of needed to find some solutions to it. The thing that really upset me with Trish was they never ever checked the stools in her stomach. They never looked at the gut to see if her, if you think that 70% of your immune system is housed in your gut, and you've got an autoimmune disease, you should be looking at the immune system. So where do you start that? You start in the gut. And they never did that.
Okay.
And I found out after she died that she actually only went to the loo, pooped kind of 3 times a week.
Wow.
And that was...
There's a bit in the book about this, isn't there?
Yes.
I remember the Gillian McKeith used to, with the stool examination in that, was it You Are What You Eat or something, that the series that she did. Do you remember?
I didn't see that one.
Oh, right.
But I mean, I had the same problem as Trish. When I was younger, I didn't poop. And I literally used to go on a Sunday. And I thought the Sunday Times was really big so that you could spend the day on the loo. I really did. And when I met my husband, and he
once
went
a week,
yeah,
Billy.
yeah, really. And when I met my husband, and he went to the loo, he was in the loo every morning for like half an hour, and I'm going, "What are you doing in there?" And he said, "Well, I'm going to the loo." And I'm going, "Well, that's what Sunday's for." And he's going, "I think you need to see a doctor." I'm like, "Okay." So I went to see a doctor about it, and they kind of said, "Oh, put more fibre in your diet," which I did. I wasn't particularly healthy in those days, it has to be said. It's kind of being an actor and being on the road a lot, you just kind of grab fast food where you can. Well, I suppose everybody does that now. I sorted it out, and it's absolutely fine. The irony is I now wouldn't even wipe my bum with the Sunday Times. Just putting that out there.
Yeah.
But no, they didn't do any of that testing on Trish. And then the following year, my mum died, which again is down to lifestyle. She was 90, so it was her time to go. And I'm really grateful that she went. However...
And she had Alzheimer's, you said, did she?
She did have mild Alzheimer's dementia, so she couldn't remember anything.
Okay.
But she had decided to go into a care home, which I didn't want her to do. I wanted her to move in with me, but she was adamant she was going to a care home. We found a very nice one by all standards. And she went in there pretty healthy, apart from the memory, a pretty healthy 90-year-old. She would walk into town every day on her Zimmer frame and buy her fresh fruit and vegetables and come home and cook a meal from scratch.
Wow.
She was cracking. I mean, she just was amazing, my mum, and she always had a smile on her face. But the food in the home was very different. Mm-hmm. So breakfast was toast or cereal. Lunch was meat and 2 veg, but it was kind of like a potato and then either kind of frozen peas or cabbage. She ate the colours of the rainbow. She taught us to do that, And then tea was just sandwiches and cakes. And then there were ice creams available, and there were sweets on the table. There were fruit on the table. But, sugar is addictive. Mm-hmm. It's more addictive than cocaine. Mm-hmm. So you've got a bowl of brightly coloured sweets or an apple, and the majority of people will take the brightly coloured sweets. It's just what happens. Yeah. And she started becoming very, very lethargic. And I kept flagging it up with the home, and they said it's absolutely normal of somebody your mum's age that's not having to look after herself anymore. And basically, she went into a coma. I insisted on bloods, and she was in a diabetic coma with a blood sugar level of 56.
Wow.
So it was basically her diet that killed her. And we did get her out of hospital. but it was irreversible. She was completely blind and her life was a mess. So when she had the next attack, we chose for her not to go to hospital and for her to die in her bed. And, you know, we were really lucky because she had her family around her and we were her life support mechanism. And again, that's something that has grieved me beyond anything in 2020, that so many people have died and not had their loved ones around them.
Exactly.
And I'm just going to tap on that because I just can't imagine what that must be like.
Yeah.
Though, and then at the same time,
That's still going on, isn't it? Is it still going on that you're unable to have loved ones around?
I think you're allowed in right at the end, but you don't want them right at the end when they can't recognise you. You want to be in there to say your goodbyes.
Yeah.
You know, I literally didn't sleep for 3 days and nights till Mum died, and I sang her favourite songs, and my sisters read poetry, and I did ballet, and she couldn't see me, but I just put this on, go, oh God, do you remember this ballet, Mum, that we did for, you know, such and such, and she knew, knew, you know, she just knew, and that is when you want to be with people. And
there's a lot to be said what's been going on in the homes for the old people, the elderly, the elderly. That's I mean the my dazzle-am and the, you know, all the scandal of that, and, you know, goodness
tragic.
knows. I think that it is. It's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking. It's completely heartbreaking. But she died, and that was a really big release for Mum. And she had no fear of death, and she believed in her God. And
well, is there death?
Well,
you know, it's, I'm definitely believing that there is life after death, and
absolutely
reincarnation, and
so am I. The way the world's going at the moment, you know,
there has to be.
I kind of feel that when my time comes and I see that light at the end of the tunnel, it might be a vagina, so I'm just going to head in the other direction.
Yeah, I want to stay up there.
It's like, oh no.
Yeah, not coming back again.
I've done my time.
Yeah.
So at the same time as Mum dying, my best friend, another really, really close friend of mine, Sarah, died of breast cancer just before Mum, actually, 2 months before Mum. So that was very traumatic.
Wow.
She tried to heal herself naturally. She didn't want chemotherapy. But
she had the kernels.
Yeah, she had the B17 kernels. But I don't believe that you can use... That's the same mentality as Western medicine, taking a pill. Yeah. And that's not what it's about. Everything's connected. Yeah. And so Sarah lost her battle. Then Mum, and then
and is it because you just want to touch on that, saying that you believe that she had trauma in her life that she needed to
unbelievable trauma
deal with, because that's obviously, they say,
unbelievable
Joe Dispenza, dis-ease in the body, and like you say, everything is connected in its manifestation of trauma.
That's exactly what it is. So she had, I won't go into details out of courtesy to her, but there was a rapist in London, the North London link line rapist, and he murdered 12 victims, and Sarah was the last person to come out alive.
Wow.
You don't recover from that trauma unless you do incredibly deep work. Yeah. And it was never spoken about. It was,
ultimately,
so ultimately
caused
it was
the
manifestation,
place,
and it was disease, and it was tragic. But you know, that's what it was. There is nothing you can take on this planet that will heal you in isolation. You have to do it in conjunction with other things. There's a great book called Radical Remissions. I don't know if you know it.
No.
This student was studying a single radical remission from cancer for her PhD, and she just kind of thought, oh, somebody completely recovered without chemo. How do you do that? And then she found another one and another one and another one, and then she found over 1,000 cases, and they all had stuff in common. And I bought Polly, my friend that died of ovarian cancer, I bought her the book. I thought it would be diet and nutrition, and it wasn't. Well, a little bit of it was, but an awful lot of it was, you know, the inner work.
Yeah.
So, it's a whole thing. So then I lost Polly, and then my marriage fell to pieces shortly after that. So that is also grief, because we think of grief as losing somebody in death. And it's not just death. It is the death of a relationship, a friendship, a business, a job, an education, a childhood. There is so much that is grief that we don't deal with. We just kind of draw it inside. Emotions have only really been around since the 1950s. It's like, oh no, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
I
sweep it under the carpet.
Yeah, no, yeah. I actually know somebody whose dad was playing outside when his mother died, and he was only about 9 years old, and he was playing outside in the garden, and his uncle was in the house and just opened the window and said, "Oh, your mum's dead," and closed the window, because there were no emotions.
Wow.
It's just like, that's news.
Wow.
So,
Terrible.
yeah, but we now know that there are emotions, and we know that they store in the body.
Yeah.
And there are lots of other deaths and other losses as well, which I won't go into. But
tell us about the operation that you had and your near-death experience.
So then I had a near-death experience. So I had a spinal fusion.
So what is that exactly? Because I was reading it and I wasn't quite... I know that you said the anaesthetic missed your spine.
Okay, so basically the bottom disc in my spine had completely collapsed. Okay. So I thought that was from the dance, but that was actually most probably from not feeling supported. But that's a whole... Everything that is wrong with us, I believe, is an emotion that stores in the body. So anyway, the disc had completely collapsed and I couldn't walk. So I had to have surgery. So they put you under anaesthetic. And what they normally do is they put the anaesthetic into the spine, which is like an epidural for having a baby. Yeah. And they check that it's working. Yeah. And then they put you under. And they operate. And it was a 6-hour operation, and they had to cut my disc out and do bone grafts and muscle grafts. And then they put a big metal cage in, and they have to graft everything back in. It's a long, very, very serious operation. Yeah. And then they bring you round. But they missed my spine with the anaesthetic, so I had no pain relief. So all I could feel... And I can hear that scream. And
but were you completely out? God, I can't even get my words out. Just the thought of it is just like, were you under then?
I was under for the operation, but then when they brought me out from the operation, I had no pain relief in my body to deal with what they'd just done.
So you couldn't feel everything within the operation. You couldn't feel them doing the operation.
I couldn't feel the operation.
But then when you woke up,
when I woke up was unbelievable. And even the surgeon said to me he'd never heard anything like that in his life. And I will remember that scream till the day I die. I've worked on it, but it was shocking. And what happened, because the body is remarkably clever, is my body closed down because they couldn't give me any medication because it was in me, just in the wrong place. So it's just like, okay, there's nothing we can do for a bit.
How many hours was that for?
The first thing I remember was coming round, and I actually presumed it was kind of a few hours later, but it wasn't. And I only found out last year when my husband told me that he wasn't allowed to see me for 24 hours. And then he, and he kept phoning the hospital going, "Can I come in? I want to bring the kids in." They're going, no.
They didn't tell him?
No, they're just going, no, she's not ready to see anybody yet. And then 24 hours later, he had a phone call going, "Can you come in, bring the kids?" And they saw me and presumed they were there to say goodbye. But my life was saved that day, not by a surgeon, but by the registrar of the hospital. And I just love this woman for this. When I woke up, I saw a mattress on the floor, and there was this woman, and I didn't know who she was. And she did 24 hours by my bed, awake. She didn't sleep. And she just kept telling me to find my happy place. And I couldn't. I couldn't find it. And then when my children were brought in, they were my happy place. And, she saved my life. Well, my children saved my life. Yeah. They both did, all did. Amazing. Do
you still keep in touch with her now?
No, I didn't know that until a year ago. Yeah, Danny only told me a year ago that that's what happened. I just kind of thought I came round, but my body had closed down for 24 hours.
Okay, so you went into a coma.
Yeah. And then when I came round, they gave me this little button so that I could squeeze morphine into my blood. Problem was I couldn't move my hand. I couldn't move anything. So Danny stayed by my bed and I just kept going, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And I couldn't move. I was just in such shock. And I came out of hospital and I had a terrible few years. This happened just after Trisha had died, actually. So I was still I still had my mum, Sarah, and Polly, but I was really struggling. And it could have been part of the trauma of losing Trish, and also I felt I didn't support her enough. So if I'm honest, but I've never said that before today. But
I'm sure you did.
No, I don't think I did. So, but that's something I have to
tap on it.
Tap on, live with, work with. But I think that's
why would you think that?
She'd moved away, and I didn't get to see her as much, and I should have gone up more, and I should have spoken to her more. I should have delved into this, but I didn't know any of this existed.
Should have.
Yeah.
You can't blame yourself.
So I don't blame myself for the motor neurons, but God, I wish I'd looked into all of this earlier.
Yeah, but you didn't. And there's always a process for things and a reason for things and why things happen. So don't do that. Don't. No. That's you doing guilt then.
No, that's me doing guilt.
So don't do guilt.
But,
we don't do guilt.
No, we don't do guilt.
Yeah.
Well, I think you can do guilt, but you just have to work through it.
Yeah.
I remember the first time, and this is a whole nother conversation, going into the Matrix, and I saw my father fall over when I was 4 in the window.
Is this the Matrix recoded, the EFT?
Reimprinted, EFT.
That's it, yeah.
I'll tell that story later. Or not. But the first time I went into the Matrix, I had guilt at 4 years old from seeing my father fall over, that I hadn't picked him up.
Wow.
But when we reimprinted it, I was 4. I couldn't have picked him up.
No, of course.
There was nothing in me that could have helped my dad. But you don't realise that at the time.
So just let's talk a little bit about the EFT, because people be like, what's the Matrix re-imprinted? Like, I have no idea. I've actually done a little bit of this with Jess Cunningham. Do you know Jess Cunningham?
I don't know.
She was on, what she was on? The Apprentice.
Okay.
And she's done other stuff, but she's amazing. Like, she's got conscious female entrepreneurs at the minute, and she's done the EFT, and I did a little bit with the Matrix, recorded there. And also the lady who I do the charity with, the female genital mutilation charity, One Woman at a Time, Jean Anderson, she's coming on next, actually. She does the EFT, and we did it a little bit in Africa. She taught me how to do it.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
It is amazing. Before we get to the EFT, I will really quickly fill you in to how I got there. So my health spiraled out of control after the spinal fusion. I was addicted to opioids big time, alcohol, post-traumatic stress disorder, didn't leave my bed for nearly 2 years, chronic brain fog, chronic fatigue, you name it, I had it. But when I saw the tumour in my throat, I had to go and see a doctor. Yeah. And I ended up seeing 4 consultants 4 days running, and I kept saying, is it connected? And they don't know. Because they are literally taught.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to cut your tumour out.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think we're going to have to take half your thyroid, but you don't need it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And so I had the tumour out, and then I just went, enough. And I went on a journey to heal myself. And I've done remarkably well. Yes, I'm very proud of myself.
You have. Isn't it so sad as a society we have? There is just totally oblivious to the connection between the mind, the body, the soul. Like, doctors that are studying, it's just so separated and divided, isn't it?
It is. And I think it's Harvard, don't quote me on that, but I think at Harvard Medical School for a master's, which is a 7-year degree, they do either 3 days or 3 hours on diet and nutrition. How can you heal a body if you don't know what feeds it? Because food is not just energy, which again is a whole misconstruction within the dieting industry, where they say calories in, calories out, and it's like, no, it's fuel for your mitochondria, for your cells.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're not fueling your body, then you can't be healthy.
Yeah.
So you know, I won't start on Western medicine, but I chose to give it up. Now, I'm not a doctor. My book is no substitute for medical advice. So always going to see your GP.
I'm staying
find
clear
out
of my
what's-
GP, I think.
I actually always go and see my GP because I want to know what's wrong. Because then when I know what's wrong, I know what I'm dealing
But
with.
do most I think GPs just have such a rounded, they just have such a vague knowledge of everything, but not, obviously you have to see a specialist really, don't you, to go to, they're only looking at you, examining you, and, you know, like, and obviously they've got more knowledge than me on things, but, you know, what blows my mind is, like, you know, when you go to a GP and they say, oh, it's a virus, take some paracetamol, or, you know, if you take your child there, or we can give you antibiotics, but they don't really know because they can't look inside of your body and they don't know what you're dealing with, like emotionally either, which obviously we know is a massive factor to illness.
It's a massive factor. And, you know, and your gut and all of this stuff that my GP is just, I love him. He's just amazing. And when I started to heal, I remember walking into the surgery and he was writing and he said, oh, I won't be a moment, Philly. And then he looked up and just went, oh my God, what have you done? And I hadn't been for about 2 years. And I said, what? And he said, well, what have you done? And I said, well, I've healed myself. He went, well, you look 10 years younger. What have you done? And we sat down. And literally, I don't know what happened to the rest of his appointments. We were in there for ages. So I said, well, I started with diet and nutrition and detox. And he said, so how do you detox? And I ran through my process.
He actually said that?
Yeah. And I ran through my process and I said, and I shove a coffee up my bum every day. And he said, you what? And I said, I do a coffee enema. And he was going, why would you do that? And I said, it detoxes the liver. And it clears out everything so that, you know, detoxing is a funnel.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're blocked at the bottom, coming back to my boob, then, you know, all the chemicals are staying in.
Yeah, of course.
You know, you're just going to get in. So you just need to. So I did about a year of colonic irrigation.
Wow.
I love it. And now I, you know, just when I need to, if I feel I'm not working properly and I'm not clean, I just, you know, have my coffee.
Yeah.
It's just nil by mouth.
Yeah. Why not?
That's actually a very interesting story about storing trauma in your body. And so the second time I had colonic irrigation, and it was just after Polly had died, and I was in a really, really bad state. And I was with a therapist, and we did the hour. And she said, I feel that there's something in your body that really needs to come out. By law, I can go to the max, 3 hours, 3 tanks. Do you want to do it? And I just went, yeah, fuck it. Yeah, let's do this. And she said, but you can't talk about Polly anymore. And I said, but I have to, because that's the only thing that matters to me in my life at the moment. She said, no, we're talking about something else. So tell me about your marriage. And the water had been coming clean, as it always did. You know, we had a little bit of poo at the beginning, 10 minutes, then clean water. And you know, so I always thought, okay, I've done it all. It's done. I'm clean. And she said, tell me about your marriage. And literally, and my marriage had been on the rocks for a while. Danny and I are still incredibly good friends, but we had just gone on different journeys. I was quite shocking to my family what I decided to do. And so I started talking about it, and within minutes, the water was black.
Really?
And for the remaining
Wow, that's
2
so
hours,
interesting.
it was black. And at the end of the session...
So she gets you to talk through things, and does she know that will trigger a response of an emotional release then?
Yes.
Did she know that?
She didn't know what was going to trigger the response, but
she knows
was
that
just,
that's how to get
yeah, so
people
she
to
just
really...
said, you know, if marriage hadn't have worked, she would have asked me about my relationship with somebody else, or, you know, she would just go, I mean, an amazing woman, Rose. And literally this black water poured out of me until 3 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
I didn't leave the toilet. It was unbelievable. And
How did you feel after that?
completely drained. And she came in the next day, even though it was her day off on a Sunday. And she just said, we're just going to do a facial. And I went, okay, why have you come in to do a facial? I fell asleep. I woke up 7 hours later and she'd just done Reiki with me for 7 hours, bless her. And she said, when I started, you were so drained and I couldn't see your third eye at all. And I know this sounds very mad to people, but yes, there is
I'm
third
all
eye.
over this. I've done Reiki.
There is
actually.
a pineal gland, which is one of the things that horrified me with the COVID when they started taking your temperature by doing this. And it's like you don't point at ultraviolet light at my pineal gland. And also you're normalising that for children.
The gun. Yeah.
And it's like,
100%.
That's not acceptable. You can take it there.
Yes.
But then, they also said you had to wash your hands to happy birthday. So every child for the rest of their life is going to be put back into trauma.
Yeah.
Nobody thought any of this through.
Yeah.
Anyway,
did they?
Anyway, what she did, back to my colonic irrigation. I love my life.
Back to the poop.
Back to the poop. She actually said to me afterwards, after the Reiki, it wasn't your marriage that came out. This was trauma that had stored. She said, this was really old and black. She said, something happened about 25, 30 years ago in your life that stored, that shocked you to the core. And I said, yeah, my dad died. And I never dealt with it and I never recovered from it. And so, it was just amazing. My body released it. And I said, how could I have been having colonic and, going to the loo? And she said, your body is really clever. It will literally just take grief and put it in a bubble.
Right.
And just hide it from you so you don't have to deal with it. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Wow.
How does that happen? But it does.
Yeah.
And I've seen this time and time again, since, and it's extraordinary. So anyway, I came back from that retreat and my husband and I decided to part company and I decided to heal myself emotionally. And I was contacted by an old friend that I hadn't seen for 22 years. And on Facebook, because I posted the end of our marriage. And she said, I do something that I think you should do, you need right now. Can you give me your email? And I did. And she sent me a link to an EFT course. Now, I'd never heard of emotional freedom technique. I didn't know what it was. I looked at the price of the course and I was just about to email back and go, I don't think I can afford this. Not that it was particularly expensive, but I didn't know how I was going to live. I just ended my marriage. And I had a message just going, by the way, it's a gift. And when the universe gives you a gift, you take it.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay. So I rock up for this gift and know nothing about it. And everybody's sitting there and they're tapping on the side of the hand. And I'm going, and then they start on the head. And I'm just going, oh my God, what is this? And I'm thinking, how do I get out of here? I just won't come in tomorrow. I can't leave today. It's a gift. So I'm just sitting there doing all my tapping points. I didn't even know what they were. And 3 hours in, I screamed. I had this unbelievable pain in my left hip. And I fell on the floor. I fell off the chair, literally fell off the chair. And Penny picked me up and I said, I have to go. I have no idea what's happened, but I have to go and I have to go now. She said, no. She put me on the chair and everybody carries on tapping and nobody's rushing up going, oh my God, are you okay? And I'm going, this is a bit weird. Nobody gives a fuck. They're all sitting there. And they all went through the tapping points. And about an hour later, I felt wonderful. I had no pain. And Penny hit the slide on the TV and said, and that was the perfect example of chasing the pain. And I had literally felt this pain go throughout my whole body. And I was able to see it, give it a colour, give it a form, give it an intensity.
So were you then saying, even though, was she working with you like one-on-one?
I was in so much pain. She was working with me one-on-one.
Yeah.
I was in so much pain that, she'd say, give it a number. And I go, it's 10. And the number was, was obvious.
Yeah.
And she said, give it a colour. And I go, it doesn't have a colour, it's pain. And she go, just give it a colour. And I can't. And she go, where is it in your body? And I go, well, it's now here in my chest. And she said, what's the colour of your chest? and I couldn't get there. So she'd just go, just make one up. And I go, red. And it's just like, and then I just see this red in my chest and I go, oh my God, what's just happened?
My belly's rumbling now.
Yeah. And then I chase it around my body and just give it a form. And I could see it. And it's like, I had no idea that your brain was capable of doing this.
Yeah,
it's
crazy.
just
Energy.
I mean, it is just energy. So basically, EFT is acupuncture without the needles. Yeah. So you are tapping on the end points of your meridians.
Yeah.
It's a hugely forgiving medium. If you don't get the point quite right, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
When you do 3 rounds, and then you just start tapping on your wrists and your fingers. And so you can just literally work there, because obviously you don't want to be sitting on a tube going, even though I'm late for a job, I completely love and accept myself, because you will look mad as shit. But you can just squeeze.
You can just tap.
You don't even have to
just
tap,
squeeze,
actually. You can just squeeze it if you're in public. I mean, you're literally just waking up. It's just insane.
Yeah.
It's so brilliant.
So it's the fingers and the side of the hand.
So the side of the hand is your starting point.
Yeah.
And Louisa Hay has this great saying about tapping, because a lot of people say, why do you see something negative? Because, we live in a world where a lot of people are doing positivity. I've got it in the book, what are you grateful for? Every day you should think of what you're grateful for.
Yeah.
But you can't clean your house unless you can see the dirt.
Very good analogy.
Which is why the colonic happened to me.
Yes.
We hadn't seen the dirt.
Yeah.
I couldn't clean the house.
Yeah.
And so you just tap on the side of your hand and you go, even though, and you have to be very, very specific to something. So even though I have a nagging pain in my ovaries, so say you're dealing with period pain. So even though I have this nagging pain in my ovaries, and then you have to say your acceptance statement.
Yeah.
Now, this is a big gig for a lot of people. So I can now say, I love and accept myself. I have good days where I can say I completely love and accept myself.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how many people cannot say that.
Yes. Just saying I love you in the mirror is one of the most difficult things, I think, for a lot of people to get over, isn't it?
It's why the first exercise I put in the book actually is to take a photograph of yourself and, stick it up on your wall. And then I ask you this question. If I asked you to tell me the 10 things you love most in the world, when would you mention yourself?
Yes.
It's a very famous quote.
Yes.
I don't know who said it originally, but nobody does.
Is it Wayne Dyer?
Oh, is it Wayne Dyer?
Well, I did
I should know that.
Yeah, I don't know if it was him, but I remember watching just recently the is it The Secret? It might not be The Secret. It's the film of when he's in it.
He was in The Secret, wasn't he?
What is it? The Secret? When there's a couple and they go to like a retreat and there's different families and.
Oh no,
I don't think it is called The Secret, but Wayne Dyer's actually in it, and it's like a story of he's getting interviewed about his book, and it's about, there's all different stories in it, and he actually asks the people that of the film crew, and he makes them all say it. And
I should have known that, but I didn't.
I love him. And then obviously you mentioned about the Marissa Peers. I've actually got it in my mirror. I am enough.
So that's another great hack, just to write I am enough in your mirror. And even though I can say now I love and accept myself, every morning when I wake up, Gandhi said, every day you are reborn, and you go to bed with all the stress. So, from the moment you wake up, you have triggers coming into your life. You put the news on. Oh, wouldn't do that.
Yeah, no, definitely
wouldn't
not.
do that. But everything's coming in. You get a phone call that you don't want. You go to work and somebody cuts you up. You get a parking ticket. You have small T's, and then you have the large T's, which are things like death, divorce, the big T's.
Yeah.
But they are all triggers, and they all store in your energy. And just by waking up and writing on your mirror, I am enough, you just go, I'm reborn today. I'm enough. I'm enough. You're doing the best that you can. And not every day can be good. And it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel shit. It's okay to have that glass of wine or that chocolate bar. if you need it at that moment in the time to get through, you have to live on an 80-20 rule, and you have to meet yourself where you are ready to be met every single day. But that, just having that on your mirror is a starting point to go from. So I love it. Bless you, Marissa Pearce.
I love her.
So,
have you heard of the Ho'oponopono, the chant?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love you. Please forgive me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Which is a wonderful mantra.
Yeah.
And
I've
again,
been doing that a bit lately as well. That's I've started doing that, learning a little bit more into that. And that works on the theory of taking other people's trauma as well, doesn't it?
Yes.
And work cleaning their trauma and put it within yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, this is very interesting because Vishen Lakhiani from Mind Valley, I do
Love him as well.
Yeah, I know.
Like literally everything that you've said is like, yeah.
So I've done a lot of his courses, a lot of his courses, but he talks very much about forgiveness. I don't know if you've seen on YouTube, he does a free little YouTube thing on forgiveness, and he went away to study it. Well, it was to study meditation, and this is just for rich people. It's kind of like 10 grand a week, and you're wired up in these pods, and you're you're doing your mantras and everything that you want to do, and they're reading the brain waves and the body waves. And there was this woman on the one that he went to that was just doing phenomenally well, and going into really deep states of relaxation, right into the delta, where you're not aware of anything that's happening. Oh, that's a nice word, delta, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right into deep states.
Deep sleep.
So she was doing complete. And so when they stopped and they went, "What's your mantra? What are you doing?" And she said, "I'm forgiving my ex-husband. I'm just doing forgiveness." So they all went in and did forgiveness, and they all just kind of plummeted.
Wow.
So
powerful.
And so, check that out. Go on YouTube, find Vishen Lakhiani, his podcast on forgiveness, and so that is healing other people's trauma as well. So that is the same, I'm
but
sorry.
within yourself.
But within yourself.
Yeah.
So, it's everything is connected.
Yes.
And we're not just connected to each other, we're connected to everything in the planet.
Yeah, and the earth.
And the earth.
Yeah.
And everything. IKEA did this amazing experiment where they took two identical plants, put them in the same room, same water, same light, same environment. Children went into the school, spoke to the plant with hate, one of them with hate, "You're really ugly and I just hope you die." And the other kids went in and said, "Oh, you're beautiful and I love you." But they weren't allowed to touch. This was just vocal. And
was there not one that they ignored completely?
That was a different experiment but it's the same thing where they ignore completely. The ignore one died first, hate one died second, love one flourished.
Yeah.
And I know you've looked in the book as well, because I've got some of the works of Dr. Emoto in there, which I'm just
incredible,
insane fan of Dr. Emoto.
And you worked with his
son Hiri, who very kindly, opened up his works, and I chose the 8 that I wanted to use for the book.
Yeah.
But if anybody hasn't seen Dr. Emoto, you got to check it out.
Hidden Messages in Water, it's called, isn't it?
Yeah. Messages in Water. And basically he did lots of different techniques with water, speaking to it, meditating on it, putting essential oils by it, playing it music, and then freezing the icicles, and then putting them under the microscope. And the patterns that came out are just completely in alignment with what the words are. And it just shows how important words are. I mean, all words have meanings. Obviously, that's why they're words.
Yeah.
But, a spelling is a spelling.
Yeah.
Extraordinary.
Love the etymology as well, yeah.
Which one?
The etymology is the meaning of words, isn't it? Like breaking them down.
It's just amazing.
So important.
Extraordinary, extraordinary.
Yeah.
It's ordinary with a lot extra, which is what I find tapping. It was the only thing I said on the tapping course, was just going, "This is extraordinary. This is just extraordinary." But there are hundreds. Depression, that's an interesting one, because that's actually deep rest, deep regression. It's where your body needs to go to heal. In the same way that I went away from the world for 24 hours, sometimes you need to go away from the world. It's not okay to stay there. Mm-hmm. You have to come back out of that. But there are brilliant things. And I'm just going to bring my doctor up again then, because on one of the deaths I went through, And I was in a really bad state. And he just said to me, and he was crying with me, and he said, I'm just going to write you a prescription for antidepressants. And I said, I'm not depressed, I'm grieving. And I'm in shock because it was one that was unbelievably shocking to me. And I said, this is shock. This is grief. You do not write prescriptions for that. And he said, I don't know anything else I can do.
So isn't that so sad?
And he sat there and cried.
Oh, he did.
He said, it's all I've been taught to do. But anyway, I came out of it. I've worked with my trauma.
Why we're in the mess we're in.
It is why we're in the mess we're in. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But there is so much. So I wrote the book last year, and I will just come back because I know we're almost out of time. And
the wellness retreat as well, I wanted to touch on as well.
I will be opening a retreat next year.
I can't wait.
But I couldn't open it this year. My plan was to open it this year. And obviously, when everything kicked off, I just thought, well, I need to get this information out to as many people as I can. So I literally wrote down, I channeled in 3 months the main things that had healed me and put it into the Natural Wellness Journal.
And it's incredible.
Which is a layperson's guide.
I'll show you it here. You need to buy it. It's amazing.
A layperson's guide, because my name's Philly Lay, to your natural health systems. It's also facts and hacks to cope with crap.
Amazing.
It will take you
facts and hacks to cope with crap. I love that.
Well, it is, and you just have to find the things. I'm actually, I've been doing on my socials, so people can follow me, and I give a free clip from the book every day at Philly J Lay on Instagram and TikTok, and I've just started doing little clips, and I keep going, mad shit to mend you, and I thought we need to start a campaign
definitely
on that. So we
mad
need to
to
get all of us together, and I'm gonna link you all together, and we can all do all of our mad shit to mend you. And I don't like the word mend normally because it implies that you're broken. But I actually
to
think
make you.
I like that.
Yeah, mad shit to make you.
Mad shit to make you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Should we start that together?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's breath work. I've got to cover breath work.
Yes.
Because
There's
that
just so
is,
much.
there is so much in the book. I mean, how I wrote this in 3 months, I'll never know. But look at the rule of 3. You can live 30 days without food. You can live 3 days without water, less than 3 minutes without air. Mm-hmm. Air is singularly the most important thing you can do for your health.
Yeah. And unless you're Wim Hof, because he can hold his breath for about 20 minutes.
Well, that's all breath work.
Yeah.
That's called, and I've got that in the book as well. That's intermittent hypoxia.
Yeah.
Where you learn to do the breath work. I'm a massive fan of Wim Hof and the cold showers. Then you breathe out, and then you just hold it. So you just... And you always breathe in through your nose, deep into your belly, and that releases nitric oxide. And 3 scientists got the Nobel Prize for this and the extraordinary benefits it has on the body. So when you have a respiratory virus going around, what should everybody be doing? Breath work.
Of course. But who's mentioned that? Nobody. Nobody that's in control of the health of the country anyway.
You know, I mean, the 2 things they gave us were a mask. No, you should be doing your breath work. Hand sanitizer. No, that's just full of toxic chemicals that's going to go into your gut and, kill your immune system. So we need to be building our immune system. We need to be doing our breath work, looking after our gut, doing our tapping, shaking it all out, move your dancing, singing, going back to your creative self. Just
getting on the ground, taking
your
shoes
on the ground.
off.
Yeah, I don't ever wear. So my feet are filthy. I'm not filming this because I never wear shoes anymore, so I get my grounding in.
Yes, definitely.
Because the earth is full of negative and positive ions, and it's actually the negative ones that help you, and they detox you from all the positive ions, which are, the EMFs, the fumes, the microwaves, the heavy metals in your body. You've got to detox. You've got to build yourself. And we were just given this wonderful muddy battery beneath our feet that just does all of that.
Exactly. And we are just totally oblivious to it. Well, most of us are, but
we are extraordinary. And so, by me coming on here, if there's one thing that I just really, really want to say to everyone is that you've got this. You know, we are so capable of healing.
Yeah.
We are just not taught how easy it is to heal.
Yeah.
And we've all got it. I'm not special. You know, I'm a middle-aged, I was a middle-aged fat woman lying in bed. You know, I was huge, this great big pile of meds by my bed. And I started my journey. So I just, I wrote the book, just say, start your journey.
Yeah.
Just know what you're capable of, because
Yeah.
it's just amazing.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put my hands on my heart there,
Yeah,
because I can
and me
just
too.
feel my heart's energy.
Raise your vibration.
And raise
Tap
our
into you,
vibrations.
Go within. The only way out is in. That's, love the saying.
Absolutely.
I'm going to get that tattooed on me somewhere, I think.
Yeah, no, I think I will.
Yeah.
We can do our campaign with our tattoos.
Yes. Well, we are out of time, but I could talk to you for hours, Philly. I think maybe you'll have to come back, because we didn't even cover all the things we were chatting about on the phone. But
I know,
thank
sorry.
you so much for coming on. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that have got so much from that interview. If you, obviously anyone that is listening, please do purchase the Natural Wellness Journal, because you will not be disappointed. It's amazing.
Or follow me.
And follow Philly J, of course.
I'm giving it out for free
Go
as
to
well.
the retreat. Yeah.
But
So
thank you so much for this. Namaste. Thank you.
Yeah.
It has just been
Namaste.
a joy, a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.